Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. UFC 291, the BMF belt is on the line. Word is, you got Gamebred, Jorge Masvidal. He's going to be putting it on the winner. Not The Rock this time, but Gamebred himself. But that's neither here nor there. What we're really here to talk about is a rematch for the ages. We say that often. It's hyperbolic. It's important. It's symbolic. We're talking about Dustin, the Diamond Poirier versus the highlight Justin Gaethje. When these two guys get into the octagon, you know blood is going to be shed and someone's probably going to be taking a nap. So it's going to be a fun one. But of course, breaking it down with me as always. Can't do it without the New Mexico native himself, Santa Fe Bomber, the man leading the head-to-head tournament for 2023. AJ, I feel like I've been saying this all year long. I'm going to catch up one of these days. Score is close. We're almost back to 0-0. How are you feeling entering UFC 291, my friend?
Derick, you've been very studious about applying the pressure over these last couple months, man. Cutting down on that lead very, very diligently. You gotta respect it, brother, but I've been feeling the heat for a while. I see those 2 gold belts behind you each and every single week, brother, and I'm over here still hungry as can be, still feeling it, and feeling a little more hungry now that you're catching up, brother. I don't think this race is anywhere near being over, so a lot can happen, and that's why you need to hit the subscribe button, folks. This thing's just getting going, and this card right here is full of storylines, highlights, man. This one has everything a good fan, casual, or diehard is gonna love. This is gonna be an exciting one. Derick, are you as excited for this card as I am? Do you think there's a lot on the table going into this week?
I think that there is a lot of legacy stuff going on this week in terms of like straight up implications for titles and stuff. I think we've seen for quite some time that the UFC is very selective with what they want to do. It's not quite a meritocracy, but it is definitely a selection. And what I'm most excited about, of course, you got the light heavyweight debut of Potan, Alex Pereira, right? Former middleweight champion, loses his belt, says, I'm going to go up and I'm going to fight a former champion myself. Welcome to light heavyweight. But AJ, I mean, come on, let's talk about implications really quickly. I want to know what happens. Dustin Poirier, this is arguably a title eliminator right here. Just because you got the BMF belt doesn't mean that you a real solidified champion, but it's going to get you right there for that title shot right there. So I just want your take. We're going to break all of this stuff down in a second. We're going to do some housekeeping, but real quick, does the winner of the BMF belt get the next title shot at 155 pounds?
It's either that, Derick, or we absolutely riot. Because that's what these boys been waiting for. It seems like they've been just hanging on at the chances that another belt will come the way, so they threw him a silver one. Yeah. This one is a title eliminator. Do you think so too?
I think so. And I think that I'm mirroring the opinion of many when we say that if there was not a man that went by the Eagle, Khabib Nurmagomedov, both of these guys definitely could have been champions, held the belts for, and had some title defenses for quite some time. But we're going to break all of that stuff down in one moment. Folks, drop a subscription if you have not yet. We're almost at 650 subscribers. We said it. This is an army. This is a brigade behind us. We got the squad. Speaking of squads, you need to talk about the bomb squad from my man AJ. AJ, we're not too big on self-promotion here, but a shameless plug. You're not on Twitch these days no more. Where you at? Tell the people.
We were talking about it for a couple weeks, folks. I finally made the move over to YouTube. That way, we're all on one platform right here. Easy mix and matching, bob and weaving, as we like to say over here on the podcast. But it's all the exact same stuff you can expect that I was doing over there. Gaming, art, breakdowns, basically building a bigger community so that we can add on to this brigade, that we call 650.
That's right. So Bloody Water Podcast, Santa Fe Bomber, all one and the same. If you want some more in-depth personal content, you go head over to my man's channel. But until then, Bloody Water Podcast, we keep it locked. You know what time it is. And with that being said, the moment that you have been waiting for, get your screenshots out because this is the UFC 291 Bloody Water Podcast betting sheet. Now, what we talk about more than anything else is the Bloody Water Podcast consensus picks. And AJ, we got to talk about them. Let's start off with Kevin Holland, right? We like Kevin Holland over Michael Chiesa. We're going to break all of it down. So these are short excerpts right here. In a word or two, why do we like Kevin Holland?
Range and growth, Derick. Kevin Holland is just growing all the time. What about you?
Size and power, my friend. Size and power. I'll say for the next bout, this is one where I feel like if you're betting for the man that we're betting against, it's because of legacy. It's because you're a real one and you're a true El Cucuy fan. But there's only so many losses you could rack up in a row and only so old you can get before you have to say, let's give it to the golden voice of the sleeper section here, Bobby King Green. That is our consensus pick over El Cucuy. Do you agree with the assessment?
100%. I mean, legacy is everything, but the dog's not dead in El Cucuy. but it's going to be a hell of a fight, brother.
That's right. That's right. And when it comes down to the last Bloody Water Podcast consensus pick, we are actually going with a bit of an upset. Alex Potan Pereira over the legendary Polish power of Jan Blachowicz, man. It's a hard one. It's a tough pill to swallow. We're going to really break this down because there's a lot that goes into it, but I'll just say there's something scary about Pereira, man. There's something scary about him. Filled up, not with the massive weight cut. I want to see what he can do. What do you think?
Man, this one to me, Derek, and I'm excited to break this down further, storyline. This one's going to have some impact on how the UFC carries itself soon.
All right, and with that being said, you want to hear about the contention? Well, stick around. Now, folks, I do want to say we're going to be switching things up this week and kind of from here on after. We talked about it before. We want to really start just highlighting one solid prop bet that we really think is going to cash that also has a value on it. And with that being said, we're not going to be tracking the props anymore. So we're just going to track, did we hit or did we not? Instead of giving you a bunch of picks out of being forced to 5 picks, 6 picks, we give you a one good one and we bet the house on it. You know what time it is. So with that being said, AJ, with this new debut section, I figure you might as well kick us off, my friend. What is your prop bet for UFC 291 you'd like to show the people?
The one I think is going to hit the hardest, Derek, and it's not because it's a pun on the way it finishes, but Kevin Holland by TKO. It's a plus 230 going in. Yeah. Not the greatest. So there's some plus 1000s on the card. You'll see some finishes there, but I think it's the most consistent that's going to give you the most money going forward. Give me that Kevin Holland TKO at plus 230. It's a good one. What do you think is the next or another juicy bet on the card?
You know what? This is one right here that I think carries a lot of juice. And when I say a lot of juice, brother, I mean it. And I'm talking about our boy, Wonder Boy, but the guy on the opposite end, Michel Pereira. A lot of people are counting my man out, and I apologize because I'm a little late to this section and I don't have the number in front of me, so I'm pulling it up as we're speaking. But the point that I want to make here is I think that people think Michel Pereira is the Wish.com version of Stephen Thompson, and I think that he is going to wrestle his way to a decision against Wonderboy Thompson. Give me a plus 285 decision prop right there, because if you're looking at the live odds, you're going to be looking at Pereira at plus 120. So give me over plus 200 odds for Michel Pereira, the capoeira karate master over there. I like it. That's what I'm going to rock with. So give me Michel Pereira by decision, and AJ, rock yours one more time.
Kevin Holland, TKO, KO, or DQ. That's where the real little sprinkle comes in.
There you go, folks. And with that being said, that is your one lock of the night for your prop bets. And now let's talk about some main card fights, the BMF Championship, baby. Let's get it.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
AJ, 5 years ago, these two men got down with the get down, and Dustin Poirier was able to come out on top. It was a beautiful victory. If you're really looking back at it, man, you're saying, wow, 4th round, you got Gaethje out of there, trading shots back and forth. But the real storyline that we have here, man, is I think one of growth, maturity, and educated fight styles. So is it fair to even look back at 2018 and watch that film and be like, you know what, I think this is going to play out the same exact way, or are we looking at a brand new fight here?
I don't think it's going to play out the exact same way, Derek, but I do think there's some value going back into that fight, specifically if you look at the way the two fighters have grown from that fight. Mm-hmm. We've seen Gaethje, in my opinion anyway, grow a lot more of a fighter, of a smart, intelligent fighter who's reading the game and playing it. And then Dustin Poirier, by all means, he stayed great. He stayed in that kind of mold he's developed as a world-class champion and hasn't had to break the kind of barriers or mental barriers that Justin Gaethje's had to go through. So that's where I see a lot of the value that comes into play there. But does that really translate? Like you said, 5 years later, I don't know. It's going to be a lot of wishing and washing. Do you think it really holds a lot of weight?
The only real major thing that I think holds weight from 5 years ago isn't the winner or the loser. It isn't particularly the fight style, because I think we're going to see a lot of new elements. But I do think that you'd be crazy to not think both guys carry a little sense of understanding the implications of their actions from that fight. Dustin Poirier said it himself. He said that there was a little exchange between him and Gaethje way past the fight. They're at a fight together, sitting next to each other. And he's basically like, hey, man, you know, that fight over here, I hope we don't got to do that again. Like, I don't want to do that again, right? So there's going to be a little bit lingering, but these guys are both professionals, and more than professionals, these guys are the most clear cut for just a pure violence bloodbath of a fight. That's technical and violent. So I don't think any of that matters. But I want to talk about the storyline in terms of like how the fight plays out. I think it's fair to say, man, if we're talking volume, Poirier is going to land more shots. Poirier is going to be touching you the entire time. He's going to be trying to take away some of your best weapons and utilize his very technical boxing, which some would crown him as the best boxer in the UFC. Max Holloway would like to have a discussion, but that's neither here nor there. Justin Gaethje, though, he does not have to land a lot to be effective and to win rounds. That's the weird thing about him, right? He can win rounds off of pure damage. AJ, we've been saying it a lot recently. Damage trumps all at this point right now. It doesn't matter how many shots you get off. Do you think that Justin Gaethje, trying to be a more technical version of himself, is more suited to a victory here, or does he need to make this a pure bloodbath brawl?
Man, it's hard to say, Derick, because my guttural instinction says he needs the brawl, because that's where he's most tricky and kind of lives, and he's most comfortable going in. You go into a technical boxing match against Dustin Poirier, you are going to have a very long night. This is going to piece you up, keep you at range, mitigate all your offenses while controlling his defenses. He does it very, very well, and we've seen Justin Gaethje grow into that same kind of mold. But at the same point, he always has that X factor of a solid chin and brutal power. And I think that's where Justin Gaethje is going to really need to draw from to pull out. But again, as always, if you're fighting for a finish, you're not going to win a decision. Does he have the power, or at least the precision to land the power? Because we all know he has the power for knockouts. At one point, he was the most vicious man in MMA, one of the most entertaining. In fact, they call him the highlight. So we know he has the power to get it done. But do you think he's going to be able to actually hit the button on Dustin Poirier? Which, I mean, it's happened, but it takes it takes one of the elite. And not to say Justin Gaethje isn't, but just is the mix-up going to happen? That's what I'm interested to see, Derick. Do you think at all, well, one, is it going to be purely a stand-up fight, or do you think Justin Gaethje is going to turn to his wrestling a little bit right here, try to take it out of the diamond and actually get him to the ground, get him worried, get that same look that Khabib had Dustin Poirier looking like when he was on top of him, just motoring down, bearing down, and making him carry his weight? What do you think?
Nah, bro, I don't. Listen, we've seen Justin Gaethje fight opponents where like your number one strength here is your wrestling. Look at Fiziev for an example, right? We said you need to wrestle. He's like, how about I don't wrestle, and how about I out technical and out strike the actual legit striker? Why don't I do that? So when you got a guy, especially when you have a competitor like Gaethje and you're fighting a dude who already beat you, come on, bro. I don't think that we're going to take that approach. I just think that they're going to be a little tighter in the pocket. Defense is short up. Watch for the big left hand of Dustin Poirier and try to take away the lead leg. I think that's the game plan. I think it's a pretty straightforward game plan. I think it's going to be more difficult to execute just simply given Dustin Poirier can change levels and try to switch it up. But let's see, like, how successful has that been in the history of people fighting Justin Gaethje? Hasn't been successful, wasn't successful the last time that they fought. So with that being said, I think that we need to really start thinking about outcomes of this matchup. Does this end in a finish? That's the easy thing. Everyone's saying BMF, bloodbath, knockout. Does it end in a finish, though? Because I don't think that's a lock.
I don't think that's a lock either, Derick. And in fact, I how much juice there was on these decision props, it made me want to go here. The only problem is I can see a finish happening, and it's a lot more likely than a lot of the other fights that a finish does. But these guys are both such gladiators and have been in there so long distance of time. Arguably, it's more favored to go the longer the distance. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that a decision is definitely in play, especially if Gaethje is a little less reckless as he was the last time. I mean, listen, man, you get caught with those left hands of Poirier, you're going to be in trouble. But Gaethje is going to be not only a cumulative damage, but he hits you with a big shot that rocks your whole head around. So can this go to a decision? Yes. Do we know it'll go to a decision? No. I'm more interested in why do you think that the opening odds were minus 135 Poirier, plus 115 for Gaethje, and now we're looking at minus 150 for Poirier, plus 125 for Gaethje. What's confusing to me, man, is Gaethje is kind of getting discounted as a guy who has not shown that he has been evolving in every fight. Poirier, on the other hand, no disrespect, that's the boy. You love Dustin Poirier. Look at who he's had to fight. You had Dan Hooker, absolute war, right? Two McGregor fights that I think it's hard to count those in the mix. Got beat up by Chucky Olives after you hurt him. then beat up Michael Chandler after he was kind of putting it on you a bit, right? Instead, Gaethje, I just think we've seen a little more evolution in his game other than the Oliveira fight where both guys got kind of messed up. So what do you think?
Yeah, you can't doubt the evolution of Gaethje going forward in this, man. That's one of the reasons I like him a lot. But going back to the prop shifting that's going on, it makes my pick waver a little bit, Derek, because this seems to be one of those cards that a lot of eyes are tuning into. A lot of the casuals are really looking at these old YouTube fights and going to the MMA cores or wherever you need to do to watch these old school fights and thinking, oh, he already beat him once, Oh, it must have been only like 2 years ago. So they still think it's fresh in the memory. You see all the highlights. You know where it's going. You see just how Justin Gaethje, who's fighting, don't fall into the trap is what my mind says on that one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Derek, I'm probably still falling into the trap. I like Dustin Poirier in this fight even before I heard that news. I imagined he was going to be the favorite. I did not expect it to be a plus 150 at what it's at, or a minus 150 at what it's at right now. That's a little shocking to me. I expected this to be a lot more of a pick'em. I think this fight's very, very close.
It'll be a close one. It's going to come down to who wants it more, man. I think this will be a war of attrition for sure. Tough to call it 5 rounds. You want to call the knockout, but I like Justin Gaethje, and I think that we are going to end up seeing plus 425 hit. If not, we're just getting an underdog win with Justin Gaethje. I think he's the more evolved fighter, and I think that Poirier has fought the bigger names as of late than Justin Gaethje has, but the way Gaethje looked against Rafael Fiziev was very impressive, bro. That was more than impressive, and to be able to kind of get the job done that way. So I'm going to rock with Gaethje. I like the underdog play. How do you see Poirier getting it done?
I like Poirier taking advantage of the same prop, Derek, decision, plus 425. But I think this fight's going to be won in the third and the fourth and the fifth. And that, if Justin Gaethje has really evolved the mountains and leaps we've seen him evolve, can he keep that precision up those last 10, 15 minutes? That's what's going to win the fight right here. I think Dustin Poirier is going to pull it out. Like I said, man, give me that decision. Looks good.
Fair play. That is your BMF championship. And I know we didn't really talk too much about that because it doesn't matter, folks. This is not a real championship. It's your WWE moment. But, I mean, hey, BMF, baby, we back. All right, co-main event right here, AJ. The former champion, the legendary Polish power, Jan Blachowicz, man, he's itching to get another title shot. My man is ready. And this is going to be the easiest, fastest, closest way he can get it done. You fight Potan, Alex Pereira, scary, scary man, moving up to light heavyweight. And what's crazy is he got knocked out in devastating fashion against Adesanya, and people are still looking at this fight as a pick'em. That goes to show how devastating of a fighter you are. Quick question before we jump into this. Do you feel any confidence in Alex Pereira in this matchup specifically, given that he got caught with a nasty shot, man? It was really accumulation. It was like 2 or 3 nasty shots by Adesanya, no defenses, full offense mode, right? That's after you're cutting arguably 30, 40 pounds. Now your water is in the brain, you ready to go, you pumped up, you big, who knows what he's walking at now. Do you think that what everyone's saying in terms of these light heavyweights are going to knock him around, are you a little more confident in Pereira given that we have this big weight discrepancy?
I am confident in Pereira, especially because of that, Derek. He wasn't so much a tweener in that 185 to 205 pound class. He was a lot more like already weighing plus 215. Homeboy is big, man. So he's still probably cutting a little bit of weight, but now he gets to relax a little, have a little more power. I think the real big thing that's going to be my question answered when this fight gets done, will Pereira be able to stop the takedowns? Because that's really where when the Polish power, man, when Jan Blachowicz gets in trouble and then he locks up any kind of grip on you, really, you're going for a ride, he's going to control you, and he's going to do the same thing he did to Israel Adesanya. And let's say Pereira does get it done. Then we got moves talking, we got moves making. There's finally a jump forward that the UFC is able to do. We're getting another double champ in the mix. So that's why I was saying storylines going forward here. Do you think anyone's thinking that far ahead in this fight? Or is this just Pereira being hungry enough to get the title at any cost he can? What do you think?
Bro, this is absolute narrative. This is glory, double champ in glory, moving over to UFC, fastest to do it. You're bigger than McGregor at that point, man. You're literally the biggest that you can be. Now, will you really surpass McGregor? No, of course not. He's the first to do it. But I do think that the aspiration is there, and the reality is if he wins this fight, they're saying that this is kind of like a title eliminator for that vacant championship. So it would be, Blachowicz or Pereira versus Prochazka next, something like that. This is though what I'm really interested in, man. This part of the narrative. Yeah, it's nice to chalk up Pereira and be like, he's going to be the double champ, X, Y, and Z. He's so powerful. This is going to be a moment where if you're backing Pereira, you're either going to look like the smartest man in the room or you're going to look like the biggest fool who has never watched an MMA fight in your life. Because if we're being honest, your path to fighting Jan Blachowicz lied in Andreas Michailidis, Bruno Silva, Sean Strickland, and Israel Adesanya. People were already saying Adesanya was just a tailor-made matchup for Pereira that he was able to overcome, even though that the skill level was vastly different, right? Now you fight a Blachowicz, who, just like you said, AJ, he wants to get a body lock on you. Once he grips his hands and locks that thing up, you might not be going anywhere. Glover Teixeira says it's a hard time keeping Pereira down, but the reality is you're fighting a black belt who is a true 205er. Do you think, or does that doubt creep in the back of your mind as a handicapper, as a wagerer, as an analyst? Do you look at that and be like, this is the riskiest pick you could possibly make? Like the risk-reward outcome is drastic on both ends. What do you think?
This one made me tremble in my boots a little, Derek. I won't lie to you, especially because of that. And the old adage goes a long way. History repeats itself. Will Blachowicz be able to do it again? Well, he's done it before, and he's done it before that. So, yeah, the potential's there, and that little bit of doubt creeps in because we haven't seen a true test of what Glover Teixeira is saying. We haven't just seen Alex Pereira picked up and dumped, and just keep on getting up over and over and over again. We haven't seen it. So until that's solidified and confirmed, a little bit of doubt is really sitting there. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing also going forward, Derek, I'm curious what your outtake on this is. Does the power that Pereira really presents going up, does that at all affect Blachowicz? Or is this just another day at the office because he's seen this kind of power day in and day out? Or is it going to be a little bit of power transfer there?
I think it depends on how much Blachowicz respects Pereira. If he treats him like, oh, this is a 185er coming up, this is not a 185er coming up. This is a dude who had to kill himself to get to 185. This is a 205er. This is pretty much a legit 205er, right? So you're going to respect anybody's power, especially left hook, big knees up the pipe, man. You better be careful on those shots because we know Pereira's tall, lanky, and can hit you with those ones. That's what scares me. I just think that in terms of being like a purist, I think Pereira is way more of a pure striker than Blachowicz is. However, Blachowicz is the whole package, and we know the whole package can definitely win. Here's the other thing that I didn't really want to bring up, but I think we're going to have to talk about it, man. The other thing is that, yeah, on paper, Blachowicz should win this fight. Blachowicz is also 40 years old, bro. Like, no one is talking about that. We're all talking about Pereira, not that good. Listen, my man Pereira is 36 years old, but with not a lot of wear and tear in MMA specifically. He got a lot of kickboxing fights and rounds, does not fight like a 36-year-old. How much does that play a factor in this matchup?
Initially, Derek, I didn't look into it that much because if you think of Blachowicz, he hasn't been staying that active. You know, he's active nonetheless. I'm sure he's been doing his 3 fights. Let me double check just to make sure.
2 fights in 2022, 2 fights in 2021, 2 fights in 2020.
In 2022.
Yeah.
3-19, which not bad, but that's going more to my point. He's not hitting his normal 3 or accredited 3 fights a year, or even going to what some do like Kevin Holland, where you have 7 a year. So the damage that Blachowicz is taking isn't that drastic, but 40 years old, 40-year-old chin, you're still in the gym every single day. So, 20 plus years of that kind of grind does wear down on the bones. Makes me curious a little. I'd be a little cautious for that. Would you, Derek?
I would, but before anything, just because, my job, my due diligence here is to like back you up sometimes. You tell me anybody that fights 7 times in a year, brother, and I will be amazed. Ain't nobody doing that. Maybe 5, right? That's where we're at. You're fighting every 2 months if it's 7 times for Kevin Holland.
Didn't Kevin Holland have 7 fights?
I think it was 5. I think 5 is
5?
5 is the record, my friend. Yeah, if you look down at the notes for Kevin Holland, man, I'm 7 fights in 1 year, bro. Come on, you're literally fighting every 2 months. Like if you do that math, that's kind of
crazy. Don't doubt a Trailblazer, bro.
Anyways, brother, the point is, listen, this is a very intriguing matchup that we have on our hands, and you can either look like really smart or really dumb. I am hoping I end up in the right camp, and I'm just gonna say, man, in terms of the moments where it's on the feet, where Pereira can stay up, big knees, elbows, and hooks. I think that's what the game plan is going to be. Uppercuts, everything that is mitigating the takedown from Blachowicz. Give me Pereira, and I'm going to go by knockout, tried and true. How do you see it?
Ooh, Ooh, I like that too, Derek. Especially if Paeta can get Blachowicz to be reaching for something, trying to grab, and he follows up with an uppercut, hook over the top, however he gets it done. I see Paeta KO as well.
That's right. All right, that's going to be, this is implications. Out of all the fights, like this is implications right here. And if Paeta can pull it off, that'll be amazing. Now, we move on to another Paeta, Michel Paeta versus the Wonder Boy himself, Stephen Thompson, another man that is 40 years of age. And here's the old adage, as he said right here. Listen, man, I had a good adage. It's gone now. The point is, Stephen Thompson is Wonder Boy, right? And a lot of people say Michel Paeta is not Wonder Boy. He is a knockoff version of Wonder Boy. He is the Brazilian karate guy. And AJ, I think that couldn't be like one of the most misguided perceptions that we have here. Why do people look at Michel Paeta and think that all he does is capoeira and fancy strikes and just karate point style people? Like, where do people get that from?
I think they just saw the highlights of when he came out, Derek, and when he was still kind of green in MMA and really making a splash in the UFC. Because if you watch his fights now, homeboy is pretty damn structured, bro. He's staying cool, calm, and collected in there. And you've seen it happen fight and fight and fight back to back to back. So going forward, I can see the correlation between a Stephen Thompson and a Paeta, but only because Paeta has now grown into a more technical fighter. And really the chaos that he once was, the explosion, the flying knees, the spinning kicks, the somersault kicks, all of that has really gone by the wayside. But to be honest, Derek, I don't know if he should really dump all his tricks while he's getting on the bus. I think he should keep a couple there, because that's how you're going to surprise Stephen Thompson going forward. Do you think Stephen Thompson has seen anything, or is this dude seen everything and all to be able to not get caught by one of those sneaky little capoeira kicks, Derek?
If we're talking striking, Stephen Thompson has a ridiculous, miraculous record. So on the feet, yeah, you've seen everything. But in MMA, you've still pretty much seen everything. That doesn't stop you from losing a fight, though, man. And that's what we're saying. If you look at strategy, there's a very clear-cut strategy of defeating Wonder Boy. Put him on his butt. Don't let him do all that fancy karate stuff, because when Kevin Holland decided, I'm just going to kickbox with you, even a fantastic striker like Kevin Holland, he was getting pieced up, bro, because Thompson is still that guy. So what gives you any indication that Michel Paeta, who's been very wrestling heavy in his past fights, why is he going to sit and just stand and trade? That's the part that I'm not understanding here. That's why I see so much value in a plus 285 decision prop for Paeta, because if he does the right thing, stays at range, gets well-timed takedowns, controls the fight, ends up with a little more damage, a little ground and pound, you win the fight. It's very simple. Why not take the Gilbert Burns approach? Why not take the Bilal Muhammad approach?
You're right, Derek. All those little approaches, or all the L's that Stephen Thompson has suffered, has been from heavy wrestlers. But all the dubs that Paeta has really had going forward, or his last four at least, those fighters have been more wrestling inclined, willing to participate again. I think Stephen Thompson has really hit a point in his career where he's realized the old dog needs a new trick, and that trick is get away from me. I don't want to be taken down. Instead of, like we've seen, he was exposed by the Gilbert Burnses, like the Bully Bees, like all the great wrestlers that are in those divisions, or in that division, excuse me. Stephen Thompson, if he wants any kind of path forward or gold or anything, because this guy's not really so much of a fashion fighter or the entertainment fighter. This guy really is still on a path, it seems like. If he's on that path going forward, he's going to need to develop those skills to stay away or at least get up. I'm not sure, at least with what we've seen. Yes, Paeta has been able to have better wrestling and get more tied down and more focused in on a single approach. But I don't think he's going to be able to hold down Stephen, or even get his hands on Stephen Thompson with the movement. Now, I could be wrong, and this could be one of those ones where Paeta really is cutting down the corners, cutting his opponent off and mitigating his movement. Mm-hmm. But at least of what I've seen lately, Derek, Paeta still, he keeps the pressure, but he just follows his opponents round and round and tries to get a hold of him that way with the explosion. I think Stephen Thompson's going to be one step ahead of him. I'm sure you see the opposite.
I don't quite see it the opposite. I just think it's easier said than done to just stay away from your opponent for 15 minutes. You know what I mean? And for Michel Paeta, yeah, that's my path to victory for Stephen Thompson. If you could pick apart at Paeta and then avoid all takedown attempts, shut down the takedown attempts by sneaky little things up the middle, like, yeah, absolutely. But I do imagine at one point there will be a car crash, because Stephen Thompson is blitz in style, Michel Paeta is blitz in style. You're going to meet in the middle at some point. And if you can get your hands on him and you can control, Paeta, I do think, has a size and a strength advantage here. Now, of course, he's bigger and he's taller, right? So I think Paeta can definitely wear him down that way. Here's the big key to victory right here, cardio, right? This is at elevation. Stephen Thompson, we know, doesn't get tired. Michel Paeta, on the other hand. That's my number one point of concern. Can you even keep up a grappling heavy approach with Thompson, especially if he's really trying to get back up to his feet? Easier said than done. But I'm going to push back real quick. You said Paeta fought a bunch of wrestling inclined fighters. He fought a bunch of strikers, bro. Nico Price, Chaos Williams, Andre Fialio, Santiago Ponzinibbio. These are all strikers right here. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really agree with him fighting wrestlers who are trying to wrestle him. And honestly, aside from the Tristan Connolly loss, my man should be like on a 10-fight win streak. He need Diego Sanchez in the head and lost. And Diego was like, if I quit, if I can't continue, does that mean I win? Paeta won the fight. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the boy Sanchez. But what do you think?
No, I agree with you, Derick. And I did say wrestlers, but I meant more of a pressure-oriented, going forward style. The Nico Price, the Fiallo, the Chaos Williams, the Ponzinibbio. All of those fighters are more pressure-oriented, so they're going to be falling into that wrestling trap and really being allowed to take control of. I don't see Stephen Thompson doing that. I see him working the in and out, working the angles, working the movement and the footwork game that goes along that's going to be able to mitigate Paeta going forward. Now, you said something earlier, Derick, car crash. I do think that car crash is going to happen quite a bit because of the styles that are happening right here. We've seen Stephen Thompson, whether it's the right or the left, when he steps in, he has a big straight down the pipe. Does Paeta have anything that can kind of counter that exact movement, or does he have his own little car crash? What do you think is going to be the biggest outcome of those? Because I think that's going to be a turning point in the fight, Derick. How does Paeta really take advantage of that blitzing style that Thompson has?
I'm just going to say this, man. For those who are uninitiated, who have never watched Michel Paeta, have not watched his fights outside of the UFC, he's known for explosion. I'm not concerned in a car crash. In a car crash, he has knees, elbows, big winging hooks, big shots. Listen, man, this is how I'm going to end this segment right here because I believe in Stephen Thompson. I think he's very good when he gets to fight his fight. When you take that fight away from him, that's when the wild cards pop up. And I think that this fight is going to come down to being as simple as this. Stephen Thompson, 40 years old, brother. These guys are getting sent out to pasture by the young bucks. Now, Michel Paeta is 29 years old. Let's not forget, my man is not an old man. You feel me? So I just really think momentum, lots of wins on the Paeta side. He seems to just know how to squeak in a victory. And if we're looking at his last 5 wins, 4 of them have come by decision, 1 of them by finish. My man knows how to win a fight. And then for Stephen Thompson, man, you got to have a Kevin Holland-esque performance. You got to have one of those highlight performances like he did against Jeff Neal or Vicente Luque. But if you look at the wins, there's much more losses than there are wins in his last 10. Tyron Woodley, we'll discount that one. Darren Till, Anthony Pettis, those are ones you wish he could have got back. Those are 2 straight-up strikers. And you got a jiu-jitsu guy in Pettis. And then the only wins, Holland, Neal, Luque, and Jorge Masvidal, which you can't discount because they're all big names. But we'll end this segment by saying this, man. Just because the guy was the thing, similar to the guy we're going to talk about next fight, for many, many years, at a certain point, it just always falls off. And in handicapping, in my opinion, you want to beat the curve before the immediate fall off. So I'm going to beat the curve. I'm going to go with the underdog play. Give me Michel Paeta and give me a decision victory, my lock of the night for the prop. Plus 285, decision prop for Michel Paeta. How do you see it?
We say it all the time, Derick. It's like Caitlin Chukagian in Texas. Stephen Thompson by decision is one of the ones that I just always gravitate towards. Can that plus 325 TKO happen? I think it can, but I'm still locking it in. Stephen Thompson by decision. I think he's a smart man. I think he knows his grandfather clock is coming to an end. He needs a big win right here. We'll see if that fuels him as well. But like I said, Derick, I like the decision for Stephen Thompson.
And what I love is when we have conviction in these opposing picks, one of us is going to look dumb. And I just don't know who it is. I can't say it's not going to be me. I cannot say that. We'll see. But, folks, if you're tailing my picks, let's ride, baby. Let's ride. All right, man. El Cucuy makes his return against... I'm conflicted. This is the golden voice of the Bloody Water Podcast sleeper section. This is Bobby King Green, a.k.a. take that back. This is King. Remember, we did a name switch. This is King right here. Y'all better get it right. And listen, man, I'm going to say this. I love me some El Cucuy. I love me some Tony Ferguson. But it seems like we're on a very similar warpath here. 39 years of age. Let's call it 40. 39 years and 5 months and 2 weeks. We're calling that 40 years old, right? El Cucuy has lost 5 fights in a row. All of them have been pretty damn bad losses. And the reality is, man, he is coming into this fight saying, I didn't take my last couple fights serious, this, that, and the other. I just think that this is a supreme athlete, competitor, not quite knowing when Father Time is catching up. And Father Time is undefeated, as they say. Can Bobby King Green, coming off of a very controversial head clash, weird fight where he was kind of getting pieced up, but he did make a comeback, do we just see momentum swing all Bobby Green here? And do we see something that we don't want to see in this fight?
Ooh, you're saying momentum swing against Bobby Green, against King Green?
For Bobby Green, meaning what we don't want to see is the annihilation of Tony Ferguson, because we love El Cucuy on this program.
Yes, Derek, I agree with you. But that's the last thing, especially, brother. Anyone in that Southwest that loves fighting, they're a Tony Ferguson fan, man, bro. They're an El Cucuy. I do not want to see just an annihilation right here. Unfortunately, you said it right before, Derek. Father Time is undefeated, and Tony Ferguson's going to be like an alien specimen to watch and look at, because this dude is just the craziest practitioner of the sport, one of the ones who loves it dearly, but and just holds on so tight to not let it go. So you got to respect him for that. And he is still very, very dangerous in these kind of fights. So you can't just completely count him out. The dangerous part, man, Bobby Green seems to be a tailored match to have that another war, to have El Cucuy fight in the fire once more, which is, yes, he is very, very dangerous there. But we've seen how it's happened in the last 5 fights when you're mixing it up toe to toe. So does that favor him, Derek? Or do you see jiu-jitsu come into play here in this fight?
Well, this is what I was going to say. I think the downfall of Tony Ferguson was not a skill set thing. I think that he had relied on so much athleticism. And when you lose the athleticism, knee injuries, when you lose the athleticism, all the other stuff starts to crumble a little bit. I compare it to when we saw Roy Jones Jr. He just did a boxing match not that long ago. I forgot who he boxed, but the point was, it was Mike Tyson. That's right. Remember Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr.? But the point was, Roy Jones was never a fundamental technical guy. He was big athletic explosions, leaping left hooks instead of jabs. Tony Ferguson is spinning elbows and knees and all types of craziness. And when you can't get off with that explosion, Bobby Green, hands down style, is going to have a field day, in my opinion. That's really how I see it. So if Tony Ferguson can't utilize his wrestling or jiu-jitsu, I find this to be pretty much a showcase bout for Bobby Green, who is coming off of not the most inspiring performance. So that's a get-back fight, but we have to take that into consideration. He was kind of getting pieced up for a little bit by Jared Gordon. We know Tony Ferguson is a hell of a striker. Does Tony Ferguson have success on the feet?
Ooh, I think a lot more than some people are counting out, Derek, especially if that minus 350 favorite that Bobby Green is. I think Tony Ferguson's going to change some minds here. Maybe not get the finish, maybe not really just solidify back to where he was, his El Cucuy status, but he's going to raise some eyebrows for sure. Tony Ferguson's going to be good. Like you said, he's going to be a little more focused going into this fight. But the hands down, the vision that Bobby Green is going to present, I think it's going to be one of the hardest, because when Tony Ferguson is at his most dominant, he's hitting you with shots you're not seeing. Mm-hmm. The good thing for King Green, he sees all the shots coming, and he's really good at reading the game as it's being played out in front of him. So it just seems to be a tailored match. My question is, Derek, do you see any way that Tony Ferguson can actually execute a game plan to get King Green down? Because at least as of late, he's been doing a better job about not getting taken down or at least getting back up in his fights. What do you think? I
mean, listen, body lock, bro. Just get close, body lock him, and take him down. Like, good luck, right? But this is a Granby roll guy. This is a Imanari roll guy. This is an athletic guy. And if you can't bring out that athleticism, you're going to have to find another path to the mats. Bobby Green is really good, though, man. And I would say the best chance for Tony Ferguson, honestly, is just got to catch him. Perfect opponent, hands down all the time, right? So just catch him. We'll see. I like Bobby Green. I think it's pretty clear here. But there's one thing that I will bet on right here, and I do not think Tony Ferguson will get finished. I feel like you have to put him out to get him out. Justin Gaethje had 5 rounds, so he had enough time to just do cumulative damage. 3 rounds, I don't think Bobby Green's going to put him out flatline. And there's one thing, Tony Ferguson will never quit on himself, and that's why you love El Cucuy. Give me Bobby Green decision, and I will say this, as a huge Tony Ferguson fan, I just hope that this is the last one that we see. You know what I mean? But that's neither here nor there. How do you see it?
I agree with you on both sentiments, Derek. I like the decision. This is going to be a banger. This is going to be a bloody one. We're going to see a red canvas after this one for the next two fights going forward. But yeah, I agree. Tony Ferguson, he's one of the greats that needs to at least start thinking about it.
That's right. All right. Now, opening up the UFC 291 card, you have Michael Chiesa, the Maverick, versus the Trailblazer, Kevin Holland. This is what's important about this matchup, man, is that another one of those where if you look binary, you're thinking wrestler, striker. Michael Chiesa, he'll just take him down and submit him. And it's like on one hand, that could totally happen. On the other hand, Kevin Holland has such a size advantage against these welterweights. Chiesa's a big welterweight, bro. He's 6'1", and I'm really interested to see how they're going to face off because Kevin Holland is all of 6'3", 81-inch reach, looking like goddamn John Jones out here, right, with these super long arms. And I'll tell you one thing. In jiu-jitsu specifically, wrestling and jiu-jitsu, one of the more difficult aspects about fighting somebody who is tall and long and lanky and strong and has a good frame is you're like climbing a tree. You keep trying to climb up and you can never quite get there because they shrimp, they create space, they make distance, and you're just constantly on that uphill battle. Now, this is my number one question to you. Yes, Kevin Holland has been taken down before. He's not a fantastic wrestler, but what does it mean to you that when you had guys like Marvin Vettori, Derek Brunson, guys like, I don't want to say Hamzat because Hamzat pretty much just kind of ragdolled him, right? But Kyle Dawkins, Jacare, Charlie Ontiveros. Ontiveros is more of a welterweight too, so we won't count him. But the point is, you had 185ers trying to take him down, and while they were doing it, it was a struggle. It was not a super easy takedown attempt, at least to keep him there. And then you got to start every round on the feet. What do you make of that? You know what I mean? Do you think that that plays into his advantage here against Chiesa?
I do, Derek. And if we've looked at the growth that Kevin Holland has, especially in the wrestling game, we know he's got hands. He's got the ones and twos, and he's got the mouth to go with it. So he's able to create chaos in the cage. But he's also been getting better at the ground game. He saw his weakness exposed, and he really started working on it going forward. And, I mean, up all his fights, he has definitely improved, arguably against Stephen Thompson when he didn't want to show how much he's improved. But when he's willing to engage in that kind of style of fight, he's been getting better and better and better. Could you say the same thing across the cage for Michael Chiesa, where this guy is, as much as he is a great jiu-jitsu player, and that's what a lot of people recognize him as, he can stand and bang too, and those are some of his better moments in the Sean Brady fight. Do you think any of that translates over?
I think he showed growth, but I don't think that it's on the same level of Kevin Holland in terms of his, like, at least takedown defense. I'm not talking about offensive grappling, just takedown defense, the ability to try to keep the fight standing. This is what I really think. The gap between Holland and Chiesa on the feet is so much wider than the gap between Chiesa and Holland on the ground. Does that make sense?
I can see that. Yeah. No, yeah, I mean that goes more hand in hand with what I was saying. I don't think it's that vast. I mean, Chiesa's been coaching wrestling for years, man. He's been in the grind since day one, and he has a passion for it, so you know he's really good at it. But I do think the growth pattern that Kevin Holland has showed has at least closed that gap a lot faster than the stand-up gap that is present.
And the way that I was looking at this matchup, honestly, through and through, I didn't look at it as striker versus wrestler, grappler, or anything like that. I really simply looked at it as Kevin Holland has such a massive size advantage. You have a guy who fought comfortably at 185, who was always a small 185er, dropped down to 170, and then you had a guy who had to cut 1 trillion pounds to get to 155, who was really like a natural 170. So that's not the same size here. And in grappling and jiu-jitsu specifically, in wrestling, size does matter. You can be really technically proficient, but size does matter, and we can't downplay that. So I just think on the feet, if Chiesa can't get the fight down to the mat quick, Kevin Holland has a field day, man. Like I think we can get a knockout here, no joke. But there's always that creeping doubt in your mind, Blachowicz style. If he gets him down and just chokes him out, then you look dumb, and you're like, why did I roll with that pick? It's always risky. We've always said this, betting on Kevin Holland, given that he's such a wild card and a wild man. We never know what strategy he's going to take. But if he's on point and he's looking to cash in on this fight and get a legitimate victory, why doesn't he finish him the same way he did Ponzinibbio?
I agree, Derek. That's why I was saying there's a lot of juice on that Kevin Holland TKO prop. You have it up as 200 now. It's grown to 230. So there's people doubting a little bit. It's making that prop grow. It's going to get interesting because I do think that's going to be the best way Kevin Holland gets this done. Arguably, I think a little bit later on in the fight would be better for him. That way, Chiesa isn't able to grab a hold early when they're still, a little dry, still have all their power, wear him down a little bit, and then put him out. Just like you said, a TKO on Ponzinibbio round 3 sounds pretty similar, or at least I'm hoping it's a little similar going into this fight, Derek.
I'm going to just put my cards out on the table, man. I think Holland gets it done early. I think we're thinking like late round 1. I think that he catches them with a long right hand or something. Kevin Holland does a really fantastic job, man. Not only does he have an 81-inch reach, but if you notice, when he throws his punches, he extends his length as far as you can. It's, technically, striker guy, right? Technically, you throw a right hand, you should throw it down the pipe, bring it back in. Kevin Holland does not throw it down the pipe here and bring it back. He gets that big, that extra little something on it. So when you think you're out of range and you're safe, and next thing you know, you get caught on the chin. You're like, oh, God, what happened? This dude is a fantastic fighter, man. Give me Kevin Holland. I'm going to take the TKO plus 200. I'm going to rock on some of the Santa Fe Bomber juice right there. Pause. That sounded kind of weird. But AJ, talk to the people.
It's a good thing, Derek, so I'm rocking on the same juice, brother. But I'm actually going to take the later one. Like I said, I think this goes to round 3. This one's going to be another fun one. This is probably the closest fight I can see having there. Word me a little bit, Derek. Won't lie.
Yeah. I mean, listen, all of these, at the end of the day, it's not like, easy locks across the board. A lot of stuff can happen. This is a good matchmaking, just throughout for this card. So with that being said, folks, we talked about these bouts for quite some time, so we don't have as much time as we like. Real quick, AJ, legitimate.
It's time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
All right, I mistimed that. A little 60-second bar pitch right here, baby, for the sleepers. You know what time it is. I'll start off while you kind of get your stuff put together here, AJ, because I got a banger that I need to talk about right here. Folks, I cheated. I'm talking about Roman Kopylov versus Claudio Ribeiro, man. And I cheated because if you know about this show, you know about Roman Kopylov. If you know about MMA, you know this guy, Claudio Ribeiro, has been making a splash onto the scene. This is why you need to watch this fight. Knockout artists on deck. Finishers. This is what it's about. Claudio Ribeiro is a big guy. He's going to want to get the fight to the mat. Roman Kopylov is going to want to avoid getting the fight to the mat and want to flatline my man. If you look at the Tapology picks, people are high on Kopylov. How could you not be? But when these two boys are swinging and banging, anybody can go down. That's my sleeper. You heard it here first. You need to tune in. AJ, talk to the people. Semi, the Jedi, he's back. And against the Doctor. People don't know about this guy. Talk to him, AJ.
It's a good thing you cheated, Derek, because I did too. This one's a layup. I'm glad I'm not glad we're short on time, but I'm glad this is a layup because it gives me some chance to just ease into it. Matt, the semi Jedi. I just fucked up your name, brother. I'm sorry if you're watching it, but either way, you're an absolute killer out there, bringing down a lot of people early. Suffered a couple late losses, but what I like most, man, Medic. This guy has a bunch of first round finishes, so both of these guys are going to be bringing the heat from the beginning. Expect a KO. This one's going to be a lot of fun. If you know Medic, he's been on a tear. I mean, besides the Turner one that Derek just highlighted, he's been into quite a couple brawls that have been a lot of fun to watch. There's a reason calling the Doctor. Like I said, I think it's like 6 KOs, 2 submissions. This dude's a real deal fighter, man. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch both these dudes meet in the center of the octagon.
And you have to wonder why it's been such a long layoff, man. I remember I was here for this fight, so I was so high on Medic. Oh, he's going to beat up Turner. Turner starched him so quick. I was like, oh, my God, what happened, right? Then the Venezuelan fighter, Omar Morales. And then it's like, man, what happened? You had a fight lined up. Medic withdrew, and we just haven't heard from him, man. It's been quite some time. It's been, literally over 2 years, right? Or is that just 1 year? I think that's just 1 year. All right, that would have been a long time if it was 2 years. Anyways, folks, that's going to be a banger. You need to tune in. What are we talking about? Listen, we got about like 5 minutes to spare on here. Let's jump into a quick prelim preview. And AJ, I don't want any long takes here. We're giving quick assessments. First one I want to talk about, you better know where I'm going right here. The Black Beast, Derek Lewis himself, against Marcos Rogerio de Lima. A lot of people are calling for a first-round Rogerio de Lima submission victory right here. Is this the matchup where Lewis finally can get that knockout back on his record? What do you think?
I think if this fight, Derek, goes out of the first round, whether it's a submission by Rogerio de Lima or a knockout by Derek Lewis, my job will be on the floor. If it makes it past that, I think either one of those are an option. I'm looking for the Black Beast to be beaten on his chest this weekend. What about you?
I really hope so, just because he's a fan favorite, but I cannot sit here and deny that if Rogerio de Lima goes Sergey Spivak style, it's going to be an ugly night. All right, bro. We got Trevin Giles versus Gabriel Bonfim. The only question that I have, no assessment, undefeated, 14-0 Gabriel Bonfim. Does he right the wrong from the fight that we had with Ismael Bonfim earlier?
I think so, Derek. I think so. What about you?
Trevin Giles is a tough guy to fight, man. That's a tricky fight. He always wins the ones you don't think that he's going to do. I'm going to go with Bonfim, though. I think Bonfim gets it done. CJ Vergara, after running a couple miles around the cage in his last fight, he gets the matchup against Vinicius Salvador, man. If you know anything about Vinicius Salvador, this is a sleeper. Pretty sure he's been highlighted on our segment before. Fantastic Brazilian striker. Question is, who gets it done?
Woo! I'm looking for Salvador, to be honest, Derek. What about you?
I like Salvador. This is my big question here, man. All odds indicate Miranda Maverick should win this fight. Does Cachoeira get the win?
Woo! I don't think so. I'm looking for fear to really pull it out here. What about you?
I want to fear the Maverick, man. I want to fear the Maverick. There's something that's telling me that the blitz style of Cachoeira can give her some problems. I'm going to back Cachoeira here. But I'm a big fan of Miranda Maverick, especially I'm pretty sure she's been training at Elevation as of late over there around the Elevation fight team. Do we got anything else? I think that's just about it. Jake Matthews gets the short notice opponent, Darius Flowers. Much better opponent originally in, Miguel Baeza. That was going to be a fun fight. Folks, that's it. That's all that we got for you. So, with that being said, here we are on the outro. Now, you're going to notice in the middle of the screen, it says AJ's Twitch. We made an announcement earlier that will be getting updated, but that is now YouTube.com. And at the end of the day, AJ, what are people typing in to reach your YouTube channel?
Santa Fe Bomber. It's the biggest, easiest thing, branded all across everything, folks, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Just hit Santa Fe Bomber. Us some links here. But as always, make sure you subscribe, because there's one place week in, week out that you can get the content. It's right here at the Bloody Water Podcast, your favorite fighter's favorite fight show, folks. And this is a fun one that draws in a lot of crowds of common folk, common fans, if you will, going forward into these fights, into the bars. So when you're winning money this weekend, make sure they know where to go win some money as well, and share with friends, have their friends share it with other friends, trying to grow this 650 brigade into a massive army, and it wouldn't be it for you fine folks. Thank you so much.
That's right. I couldn't have ended it any better myself, folks. That's it for us. Until next time, catch you on the flip. Peace.